All right, I'm going to call the meeting to order of General Government 2 Budget Committee, April 12th, 2012, 7 o'clock. The caucus, well, actually, we're in room 3C today. Members of the committee are myself, Mary Teicholz, Councilman Joe Cavo, Councilman Shay Nagersha, Councilman Peter Nero, Councilman Steve Darcy will not be here, he's not well tonight. With us we have David St. Hilaire, the Director of Finance. We have Data Processing and IT, Frank Gentile. Tax Assessor, Colleen LaHood. Tax Collector, Scott Ferguson. Purchasing Director, Chick Volpe. Human Resources, Ginny Alaska-Warner. Risk Manager, Dan Garrick. Ex officio members, Warren Levy, Greg Seabury, and Paul Ritello, and I thought I saw a member of the public around. So I guess we'll begin the meeting with, if Mr. St. Hilaire wouldn't mind starting us off here, please.
Thank you. All right, the first tonight is the Department of Finance, Director of Finance, on page 113 of the budget. The amended, the current year budget is $845,000. The proposed budget is $884,000, and most of that is in the contractual increases. That is, we also increased part-time salaries because I do have a couple open positions. However, I'm going to backfill that a little bit with additional part-time help. And that's pretty much most of the changes in the Director of Finance budget.
Would you like to do our questions department by department if we have them?
As we go along,
Okay.
if that's okay with you.
Sure. Just so everyone knows, we're on page 113 of the budget right now, in case we missed it. And I did forget to mention that our city treasurer wasn't feeling well. He would attempt to make it, but I did get a text that he wasn't feeling well, so he may not make it tonight. Sorry for that. Going back. Any questions on the Director of Finance portion? Mr. Nero.
Thank you. Through you to David. David, this may be in your memo here, and if I missed it, forgive me. There, on this 1080 5020, there's 26,000 increase. Is that because of this new position? I missed
No,
that.
there's no new position in there. Those are contractual salary increases.
So that's a contractual salary increase of 26,000. Okay. I noticed on 1080.5040, the budget request was $26,540, and the mayor's proposed, if I'm correct, was $45,000.
Yeah, because
Okay.
we have a couple open positions there, and with all the changes going on, with the system changes,
Yes.
I don't want to permanently fill those positions until all those changes have taken into effect. And so in the meantime, I'm going to use part-time help. So I needed to put some extra dollars in there. If you notice, I have an offset in there about $45,000. That personal salary savings, negative $44,972.
I did notice that, yes.
So I'm going to offset that with additional, basically a net. It's a net $5,000. I'm taking away 45 there, putting in 20 here, it's a net savings of $5,000.
Thank you. Okay, and there is there any way of lowering that number that you see, that 45,000? I'm not sure that.
We're very bare bone right now, and it's really difficult to, to lower that number any lower, get that number any lower. Because, we've been pretty short-handed for a while. It's really a strategic move for us to do that. And I really hate to bring somebody in and train them on the old systems, and then to have all these really workflow changes, and then have to change everybody's job assignments or make some significant changes in 6 months. I'd rather wait until those changes are done and then hire the type of person that I need.
Thank you.
Our city treasurer, Dan Jowdy, is here. Do you want to go independent audit also on page 113?
Yes. Just below the director of finance, you have independent audit on the same page. The amended budget is at 40,000, and in the proposed budget by the mayor is the same. It's going to stay flat at 40,000.
Any questions?
Mr. Singleton, through the chair, that's a contract issue. That's a contract we have with the company, right?
Yes.
A 3-year?
Yes.
Single-
We're actually on a 5-year contract.
Or a 5-year?
Right.
And what year are we in now with them?
We're in year 4.
Okay, great.
We're going into year 4.
Thank you.
The next is retirement. I'm sorry.
No,
Is there a
go
question?
ahead.
Retirement administration, which is right below that, for Department 1320, committed budget for the current year is 20,000. No change for the upcoming year. They remain at 20,000. Any questions? All right. On page 115, that's the city treasurer. I'd like to point out that there is a typo. This doesn't impact the overall budget because it really is just in the number of positions area. It's not in the budgetary line item area. It's in the, excuse me for a second. Right below it where it says the treasurer's salary, that 9 should be a 2.
There's your age, Dan.
He has done a great job for us.
He's worth every
He's
dime.
definitely worth every penny of that, but it is a typo there. But basically, the budget is exactly what it is. Proposed budget is exactly what it is for the current year. Any questions? Okay. At 1090, which is on page 117.
Oh, can I just back up? Mr. Jowdy, do you have any comments? Okay,
No, I do
thank
not.
you.
Thank you.
On page 117 is the Information Technology Department. The current year budget is at $1,223,000, and next year's budget is at $1,226,000. A slight increase in budget. Most of it has to do with contractual salary increases. There's some line shifts between lines, but that's about it. Basically, the budget is flat. Matter of fact, they absorbed some of those contractual increases by reductions in other lines. Yes.
Mr. Nero.
Thank you. Before we move off of that, and thank you, I just want to make sure that I have am I correct in the mayor cutting 1090.5020 from 384 to 330? Am I correct in that, David? Through you, Madam Chair.
384 to 350. Yes, from the department. That was, Yes, because basically that, we're adding, there's an extra position in there that should have been in there. If you may recall, there's a reallocation of some of those charges into other departments, so that inadvertently got added into that number.
So that, I'm in through you.
Sure.
There's a reallocation of services to police and fire, public safety.
Okay, so that 54,000 doesn't disappear, it's going somewhere else?
That's reallocated throughout.
Reallocated. Okay. And $1090.5311, there's $362,053 there.
Yep.
62. And the mayor cut that to 225 as well. That's a drop of about 137. And I noticed that the projected for this year is 362, but the previous fiscal year it was 488. So I was wondering again about that 130. Not that I'm looking to give you money, I don't mean that.
No,
But I'm trying to understand what happened with that 137. Where did that go, and why did that come out of there?
Well, some of the costs that were incurred in that, they're related to the CRM project, and that's being accounted slightly different. So when we look into next year, we won't need that entire amount. We'll need it for partial year, but not the entire year. So I think if you notice, it was just from the point that this was put together and proposed by the department, they just kind of rolled forward their projection. And, after a closer review, so you don't necessarily need that the entire year.
The proposal was 414.72, and the mayor put in 400. The projected was 348 for this year. We would finish at 348. Previous year was 311. So I'm wondering about that jump in there too, please.
Yep, that, in the past, this is where the maintenance contracts are falling in for all the software. That used to be distributed in the other departments, and now they're coming into this department. So, all those HDE, all those other kind of contracts which are spread between the fire and police, this is going to be absorbed in that.
So again, does that mean that those line items and those budgets will be reduced by that amount?
They have, we didn't really, you don't see it so much there because they have other things that are coming in, offsetting it. So it's not like you're going to see a direct reduction there. And that's how we're able to keep their budgets pretty tight. We shifted some things over here, which allow them to hire have some other maintenance contracts for other items that are not directly associated with this item, because that's falling into this area. For example, I'll give you a today example. We're entertaining a maintenance contract for the cameras over there. The cameras have been over there for a few years. They're off their regular maintenance contract. Now we need to extend that contract at a cost to us. So that's something that they now have to incur. And the police have a few of those items in their budget. So basically, this is reallocated here. Now they're absorbing some newer cost. It looks like nothing's changed, but in fact it has.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Do you have anything you'd like to add, Mr. Gentile?
No.
Okay, thank you. On to page 122. Bureau of Assessments.
Okay. Bureau of Assessments, current year budget is at approximately $441,000. Proposed budget is at $446,000, which represents basically general wage increases, general contractual increases. Not a whole lot of changes in the other line items, there's some slight shifts among them, but not very much.
Mr. Nero?
Thank you. And through you again to David. I think you gave the answer, but just let me understand this. That first number, 1110.5020, there was 427,105 is what the mayor's proposed budget is. This year, it looks like 319 is what we'll finish the year out. Previous year was 420, so, I mean, there's not a big difference in the previous year to what you're asking for in terms of the 427 this year.
Yep.
But there's a big jump from the 319 to the 427.
Yep.
Just hit that a little bit.
Sure. This is one of those, I would say, clear cases where you see some positions that have been funded but vacant. So you don't see that personnel salary savings line. We have a couple positions that are vacant right now. You have the assistant assessor position that's vacant, and we have another position that's vacant over there. And so we know that we're going to fill those. So we're not going to put an offset to the budget line, because if they're all filled, it would be 427,105. Right now, they're not. So that's why our projected for year end is almost almost $100,000 less.
Right.
So,
Thanks, David. Thank you.
questions? 1120, which is the Board of Assessment Appeal on page 123. Now, we provide a small amount of funding to help with this process of appeals, and people that serve get a small stipend. And their amount is going up, not the amount that they receive as a stipend, but the amount of support for that process is going up slightly because, as you all know, the readout year is 10/1/2012. So they'll be dealing with that next year. So in anticipation of that, we look at our historical trend, the cost always increased in the year following a rebound. As a matter of fact, in the 2 years following a rebound. Is that about right, Colleen?
Yes.
So we took that into consideration as we made a recommendation to the mayor on his proposed budget. So the current year budget is $4,465. Next year's budget proposed is $7,475. Any questions?
Colleen, do you have anything you want to add to any of this?
No, I don't understand.
Thank you.
On page 125, we have the tax collector. The tax collector's current year budget is at $561,000. The proposed budget for this upcoming year is $564,000. And the big difference between what is being proposed and what is the department has asked for is that the department fully budgeted for the salaries. However, we're defunding one of those positions. The department currently has 2 open positions, and we're defunding one of those positions.
Councilman?
Thank you. Through you to David. So if I look at 1130.5020, the request was 500,291.
Yeah.
Projected to finish this year is 413,521. And the previous year, we closed out with 437,161. So help me understand that, and does it have something to do with the minus 44,972 here? I'm trying to figure out.
Sure.
Thanks.
This led, for 2 years, they've had one position vacant. For this year, they've had one position, actually 2 positions vacant, but not for the full year. That, Scott, that properly describes it, right? For about 9 months.
We had a
one
mid-year
position.
retirement.
Right, mid-year retirement. And so if you look at the current year budget, at 500,000 with an offset of about 44,000, so you see up there.
Sure.
That reflects that defunded position. We're gonna reflect that going forward. The difference is now that 500 is going up to 510 because of contractual salary increases. Does that help you follow that?
So, okay, so that difference, okay, goes to okay, yeah.
What you really need to look at is the net, the net of those two numbers.
Okay.
All right, which is about, 470.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have anything to add, Scott?
Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Next part is Department 1140, which is purchasing on page 128. The current year budget is at $225,585. The proposed by mayor is roughly 205,000. The department proposed 227,000. However, there is a vacant position in purchasing, and we are defunding that full-time position. However, we are increasing the part-time salaries. Again, the same thing, the reason for that is there are a lot of changes going on, especially within all the departments of finance. And we hesitate filling any of the vacant positions at this time because of all those changes. So we're kind of supplementing with additional part-time help. Now, when those changes take effect, after all these changes take effect in next year's budget, we're going to see that position come back to us, and we'll decrease the part-time. All right? That's why we're holding this as an offset.
Madam Chair, through you, Mr. Senior.
Yes.
So David, what you're saying is that right now you're doing the work with part-time help,
Yes.
but you anticipate adding back a full-time person once all the changes happen in regards to our IT system and what we're doing with that.
I'm not going to say that I definitely anticipate it. It's a possibility.
Okay.
Okay. If I may, because what may happen because of how all the systems, are laid out and how things are operating, we may find that we need to have more support over here and less over here. And so we're going to probably do some slight reorging, likely do some slight reorging prior to the next year's budget.
Mr. Volpe, do you have anything to add?
Just like to give a shout out to the Mayor's Save program, the seniors for taking advantage of that. So that's helped us. And in particular, Pauline Basso. She's been working there. She actually fulfilled her 100 hours, probably 100 hours ago. So she's basically working for free now. So she's,
We like Free.
yeah.
She's been doing a tremendous amount of work with it. She's been great. I mean, along with all of our workers, but, it's nice that she volunteers. Any questions? All right, Department 1270, Human Resources, which is on page 144. The current year budget is at $311,000, approximately $311,000. The mayor's proposed budget is about $315,000. The department requested about the same as the current year. However, we had to increase that to reflect the contractual salary increases. increases. One thing, just to note, when the departments proposed their budget, they didn't have, the contracts weren't settled, so they didn't have all the information that we had when we ultimately printed this budget. So that's why there's some adjustments like that.
Any questions? Ms. Olesko Warner, do you have anything you want to add? Thank you.
All right. Next is 1330, labor negotiations on page 146. The current year budget's at $165,000, and the mayor's proposed budget is at $100,000. Now, I know Councilman Nero had a question on this earlier. It was a very good question. In regards to, if you look at the 7-year average, it averages about $135,000. However, this is one of those lines that is, it's really driven by when we do our labor contracts. And the last couple of years have been very high. We're down to one more contract that we need to finalize, and the bulk of that has been done. We just have to go through another painful process, step. Hopefully not too big, but nevertheless, it's still going to cost us some money. And the other costs, and these costs aren't all contract negotiations there, but they are contract related. Contract negotiations tends to escalate the cost during those years that we're, dealing with the contracts. So, $100,000 should just about take care of next year.
Any questions?
Okay. Department 1995, General Government Employee Service Benefit, which is on page 159. Okay, the current year in the budget is about $15,000, and proposed by mayor is about $20,000. And that's to cover any of these vacant positions that if we determine sometime during the year that we need to fill these because there's a critical need, then this will give us some flexibility to fill those positions. Obviously, there's not a whole lot there, so there's not a lot of positions that are going to be filled with $20,000.
Questions?
Next is 8001, which is FICA, at page 239. Amended budget was 1.6 million. Proposed is flat at 1.6 million. Questions?
Thank you. David, the 8002-5240 pension expense, I know that the mayor has said to us that with the new contracts that have been just negotiated, we're hoping to see that number start to trend downward. May not be the next year or so, but the years following, we're going to start seeing a significant trend downward in that number.
There will, but that will happen in future years. We're not going to see it in next year or the year after, because really what we've done with the contracts is for existing employees to start making some contributions, to their retirement plan, but essentially no new entries into the plans. Of course, they're accepted partners, and that's going to have a tremendous impact on our future projections of these costs. But it has to start smoothing in, and we look at these things over a 30-year period. And so it does take some time for it to actually have the kind of impact that we hope to see. Keep in mind, we had to it's like a freight train. You have to slow it down and run it first. And that's what with these contracts, that was a huge thing. And the savings are really incredible amount of savings to the city. And, when you look at the escalating cost of a plan that remains open and non-contributory, in comparison to a plan that is closed for newcomers and a contributory plan, you essentially have totally reversed that trend. And the savings is incredible. Combine that with the significant changes in health insurance, you just laid the groundwork for, savings, as the mayor said, in tens of millions of dollars.
These are the things that make finance guys very happy.
Oh, yeah.
If I could just follow.
Because you got the long-term vision. I mean,
Thank you. And David, the accounting in this, was that generated by the gas accounting, the general accounting practices? Is that what got us into that, that the state had passed a couple of years ago about the proper funding, or the funding of that to a level of what we weren't expected to do?
Well, a couple things. One thing, I think the meltdown in 2008 certainly woke everybody up. But the more, and what it did, it woke everybody up to take a more conservative approach to making contributions, and a lot of municipalities still have not taken that approach because they can't afford to. I mean, so what happened though during the time when municipalities, and a lot of plans were kind of structured this way, when municipalities were rich, their contribution levels were very low. And so when times are bad, meaning the markets are bad, their contribution requirements went up. Kind of not the relationship you want there. So when times are good, you want to, basically, you want steady Eddie, is what you want. And that's what we've done. We modified these assumptions to have more of a steady course. So when times are good, we're not going to necessarily see a significant drop, but when times are bad, we're not going to see the significant increase either. And it's going to make for a much stabler plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilman Rotella.
Thank you. Through the chair to David. David, if we're putting in $9,400 this year, what in general are we paying out on a yearly basis?
Yeah. We paid out, we just had a 15% increase, which is, it took 5 years to get that for the current retirees. They went, because basically it's based upon over a period of time, for the retirees, it has to, the cost of living has to be a certain amount, and then they'll get their increase. Well, they got that this year. They had to wait a long time. So from the city's perspective, we're really fortunate. But that's an additional $2.5 million out of the plan. So, but our annual
In this year, in this current year?
Yes, but that's smoothed out. I mean, I shouldn't say that. The total distribution is about $17.5 million. All right, out of the pension plan itself. Now we're not making a contribution of $17.5 million, obviously, because of the returns that we were getting into the plan. So we're making only a $9.5 million. Actually, this year it's $7 million. So when you're making a contribution of $7 million, but you're doling out $17 million, already you've got $10 million you got to make up, right? Now, if you had like in 2008, when losses, you had losses, well, you still had to pay out. And our contribution at that point was down to $2.5 million. You see the nasty cycle you're in now? So that's what happened. We're gonna be at a level, and we're gonna hold you know, we'll get to a peak and we'll hold. And that's where we're gonna be. And then we'll deal with the ARC issue. You know, you got the pension ARC, and then you've got the OPEB ARC. And, you know, it really creates, and that's why we're, quite frankly, rated as highly as we are, because we look out long-term. We deal with these issues, and we don't deal with them in 1 year. You know, we recognize we recognize the problems way in advance, and we pace ourselves, all right, we gotta take care of it. So,
I'll share one more question.
Sure.
Thank you for you to David.
yeah.
Okay, of the 9,460,000, is the 1.8 in that number?
Yes, it
for the
is.
school system?
Yes, it is.
employees?
This year, of the $1.8 billion that increase this year, you know, going into the next year budget, $800,000 of that is related to the school. But of the 9.5, 1.8 of the total is the school. So
And that's not teachers, that's only paraprofessional, secretary,
Right.
employees for the school system that are in the general pension fund.
Correct. So it's important for them, when they're in the negotiations, to get their plans like our plans.
Right. Thank you.
Councilman Curran.
Through the chair to David. David, do all employees that are now in the pension system contribute to the pension system?
Currently, no, but they will be after July 1st, 2012, because we have a staggered system. The non-union is not there yet, but then, you know, most of the other ones will be. Jenny?
Just a clarification, non-union hired after January 1, 2011
Are,
do make
right.
contributions.
Yeah, thank you.
One more question.
Sure.
David, the ones that are hired after, the new hires that don't have, do their monies come out of the pension system whenever they collect, or do their monies then go into the pension system? Or is there gonna be a separate fund altogether in the new?
Separate, the new hires are gonna be part of the defined contribution plan. So
They'll be separate components?
they're closed out.
Okay.
The city, just a point of clarification on that, the city will make a contribution. They'll make a mandatory contribution, we'll make a mandatory contribution. So,
Well, who watches those funds? Same as the pension boards on the
Yeah.
other side?
we're gonna establish a committee similar to what we have on the pension fund side.
If I
Councilman
may,
Catella.
yeah, that brings up another point. If it's defined, what happens if the market tanks? What are we going to be on the hook for this new plan?
Well, that's the point of having a defined contribution plan. We're not gonna be on the hook for anything more than what our contribution is.
Okay, so the contribution is defined, not the payout.
Right.
Gotcha, thank you. That's all I needed to know. Thanks.
Any other questions? These are fun questions, I love these. All right, pension, we covered pension, employee service benefit, lines, it's not unlike what was covered before. You know, the amount that's budgeted, the amount that's being proposed is the same, no increase in that. Workers' comp, the same page, we're on 239. Workers' comp is staying flat at $1,051,950. All right, no change there. State unemployment compensation is going up. All right, 45 to 65. We saw some slight increases on that. Any change? Any questions? Next on page 240, which is Department 8006, Employee Health and Life Insurance. We saw a decrease in this line item. in these line items. From our current year budget of 15.4 to next year's proposed by mayor of 14.8. And much of that has to do with our switch from carriers, Anthem to Cigna. We see the full year effect in the next budget. Any questions? Okay. Union welfare contribution. Again, this is a contractual item. Our budget is going to go up. From the current year budget, 1.2 to 1.325. Any questions? On the next page, on page 241, we have Department 8008, insurance and official bond premium. The budget is increasing slightly. Current year budget is $2,000,005. It increases up to 2.690, or roughly 2.7. Any specific questions on that? There is a typo in proposed by department under bond premium position. That was 95,806. It really should have been 95,006. Slight typo there. Professional services are going up. That's going to, purpose for that is to help us with our programs as we move forward. Hoping to roll out wellness program or to start driving into that direction. Public liability is going up. That's the other notable change.
I know, I was thinking. Do you have a question?
Yes, if I may. Thank you,
Councilman
through you.
Nero.
To David, through you. I see that it says Department Coordinates the Safety. I could read, what was written there. But what do they actually do in this? I mean, what does this department really, I see a lot of stuff here, but
Yeah.
I don't know what they really do.
Well, they're really, they do a lot there, and I'm gonna let the department head
Okay.
of risk management speak to it. Dan Word, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Dan
Oh, okay.
Who's
Thanks.
also the assistant director of finance.
Thank you.
Majority of these lines are for our insurance premiums and our deductibles. You see that the last few lines are the heaviest part of this budget, and that's really our premiums and deductibles for liability, workers' comp, and our auto.
But Dan, this salary, this regular salary, who gets that? What does that person do?
That's our, it's budgeted for 2 claims processor. We actually have 1 vacant position there right now. So that's why you'll see the projected expenditures for the current year, about half of what we have in there for the budget.
So those claims don't go through HR, they go through this department, is that the way it works?
Right.
Okay,
This is the benefits department.
okay.
So we take care of all of the health insurance and workers' comp claims.
And right now, do you mind if I do this?
Of course.
Thank you. So you said right now you're short a person? Did I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. But this 295 would be for 2 people?
For both people.
Okay, all right, thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Not to be confused with Chief Harold's risk, what's he calling it, Dan? Risk, risk,
Public risk.
public risk.
Community risk reduction?
Thank you, yes, thank you. One is internal, that's internal for employees and retirees. Chief Harold's is for external for the public. That's an important distinction. Okay. The chief and I went around and around on that. We didn't want to confuse anybody with the term risk in the title, and so we came to terms, and so we wanted to make sure there was clarity on that. Okay, the next area is in the debt area, which is on page 243. I'll just, so for the chair, I'll just look at these in total. the total debt area has, you'll see savings in the total debt area related primarily, some areas are going up, some are going down, but we have included in here a savings that we saw from the refunding of the bonds. We did a $16 million refunding during the year, which resulted in about $800,000 in savings over this year and into the next budget year. About 400 and 400. So you'll see that within this. These are payments that we're obligated to make based upon the issues that we have done and are going to do that we propose for the next budget year as well.
Thank you. And through you to David. We did a bond workshop for councilmen. And the only reason I'm saying that at this particular point is, for the last 3 years, I've heard we're bonding our future, we're selling our, I hear all of these things. And to sit down and go through all of the numbers and see how you're tracking this so that the bond rate, we start to pay back the bonds so that we can go back into rebonding to be able to do future expansion. But to try to explain that to people, and I know with my hands, forgive me, I'm Italian, so that probably doesn't really solve the problem any better. But I would just love to see us have a bond workshop for councilmen or just Peter Nero, so that we can actually speak about these things with some real depth and intelligence.
Sure. If I may. You had asked me a question earlier about how do we, on some of these things, how do we compare ourselves? And, debt is one of those areas, and when you're at a certain percent of your expenditures, that's a pretty good gauge to go by. And municipalities in general are most of them are higher than us, and so from a comparative basis, we're doing quite well. But basically, to help, you always have to reinvest in your infrastructure, whatever that may be. And whether it's your sewer and water, your bridges, your buildings, your roads, because if you don't, then you're going to get hit in that 1 year when that thing breaks down, or the bridge falls in, or the building has some significant immediate needs. And so your capital program should be structured to smooth out that over time. And what you want to do is find the optimum level of really what should your contributions be of your total overall budget. And finding that is not necessarily an easy thing to do, but you want to have it manageable. And so you want to, what we're trying to do, and what we have done is we'll hit to a level, and then you wait for these to roll off, and then you don't want to get down to a level, because what's going to happen when that drops, you're going to find something else to do with that money, right? You're going to say, well, let's do this, let's do that. You want to, and then when it comes time when you need it, you're going to have to jack your rates. So your rates start going like this. And instead, and you would like to think that they're going like this, but the reality is, human nature is, that instead of, us doing things in a way that rates trend downward, if we don't budget out for the future, they will tend to trend more upward instead of evenly. And we would rather have, as I said, steady Eddie, have a more even way to go, rather than people not be able to plan, whether it's us as a city or people in their homes, to plan going forward. It's best for business, it's best for residents, and it's best for the city. So we try to plan going forward.
Follow up to this, it was a very general question. Thank you, David. As a percentage of our budget,
Yeah.
off the top of your head,
Yeah.
what is our bond redemption number?
We're about
to
7, our
retirement?
debt percentage is about 7.7%.
Okay.
And it's in the back of your book.
Okay.
All right. As you compare it to other communities, we're in good shape. And, you know, I'd be happy to share this with you. It's a slew of statistics which will bore most people out of their mind, but I tend to use these things to help me gauge our, you know, how are we doing? So, you know, from a debt, we are really, really strong on nearly every category that we have. And quite frankly, the rating agencies see that as well.
Thank you.
And our debt level in comparison to other communities is actually low, which from a rating agency perspective means we're not investing enough in our infrastructure, our stuff. Now, that's a policy decision, but to do that immediately means things you don't want to do, and that's to increase your tax rate. You don't want to do that. So you want to steadily do it in a manageable way to get to, you don't have to worry about a sudden roof replacement program. You want to, and that's what this next place is for, the capital projects fund. That's what we try to do with that. It is to start laying the seeds for, as things start to roll off, we can fund it annually rather than through big bond issues. Big bond issues are great, but some of the smaller items, like we talked about for the sewer and water, you don't want to necessarily do that through bond issues, but through a good capital reserve fund. We do it for the ambulance fund, and we're doing it for the animal control fund. So when there comes a need, you don't need to have swings like this. You want to have, we got it there, we'll pull it out, and the only one that's financing it is us, the taxpayers. We're financing it ourselves, we're not paying anyone else to do it. And, you know, because quite frankly, it's gonna cost you a lot, and you're not getting anything in the bank, so you might as well, you know, be smart with it. There are certain programs that work very well, like leasing programs, you know, for our CRM project, you know, it's less than 1.5%, 1.59%. And some of these other programs are, when we ban down, we pay 0.39 down, 0.39%, which is great. So when there's a temporary need, we deal with it that way. Long-term need, the bond rates are very, very low. So we make decisions of how to fund those, you know, using these different methodologies, or financing methodologies. So let's, if I may, go on to the next one.
Councilman Cavo had a question.
I just wanted to just ask David, you know, our performance measurement is not just done by us internally, it's not just done by.
Oh, no.
It's done by bonding
Right,
agencies, and
right.
that's part of the reason, part of the way we bond is why we have a AAA rating.
Yeah.
And,
And the state has all these statistics as well. I mean, they do all the, you know, look at all the towns, it's on the state's website for the town's statistical information for every town throughout the state. So,
and our rating from these agencies allow us to borrow money
at a cheaper rate.
a much better rate.
Absolutely.
It just shows that the city's performing in a very fiscally responsible
Yeah.
way, and that we're good people to lend money to.
Right.
We're a good risk.
But that's another loaded statement. That is not an easy task to achieve.
No, I know, it's a
And
balance
that
of a lot of
comes through a
things.
lot of disciplined efforts by the board, led by the mayor. And that's, you know, and I commend all of you for staying, you know, committed to that.
Thank you for your help as well.
On the capital projects, some really pretty good new ones that I think I'll point out here. The fire truck, or the fire ladder truck. We have it's a $1,054,000 ladder truck. We have $115,000 here, however, that just represents really the lease payment for this coming year. For those of you who weren't here when we did the public safety session, that there's a lot of lead time to that, so chances are, when the order is put in, it'll take, 6 to 8 months, is that correct?
Yeah, probably closer to 9.
9 months, okay. So chances are, we probably won't even start making payments for that until, a year from now. Yeah, but it's, we're gonna see what the rates hold, and see if a 10-year lease or a 7-year lease is better for us. Usually, 7-year is usually a break point for that, but sometimes, it depends on the rates. The other thing is the police, the replacement outfit PD vehicles. Last year you funded it for 250, we bumped it up to 400. And this is, again, part of the, we used to make that part of a bonds. We don't do that anymore. We funded that 250 last year because they had some remaining money from the previous year. And if you can see that here, because that actually, that 250, the amended budget, what we do with any remaining money, we just roll it over into the following year. It's a program cost. So they had about $365,000 this year for vehicles. Next year, we're proposing $400,000. We know that they probably, to be fully equipped at some point, maybe the ideal number. We're not exactly sure what the ideal number is. 400 is probably good, but they're saying it could be a little higher, maybe at 500. So maybe next year we'll take a look at that again. But they got to use what they have first. Spend what you have and then revisit it. The other items are carryovers. So you've got the pumpers, you've got the window project. The full cost of that is closer to $1 million. However, we had some money still left over from the previous year, and so the current year is going to be supplemented by the previous year. But keep in mind that amount is a net amount because we have interest subsidy from the state, from the feds. That's going to help keep that cost down even lower because we're part of that program. And the CRM project, and that's a carryover from last year. That was a $2.5 million project. That's currently ongoing, and there's a lot of different pieces of that. $75,000 is the roof condition survey of city buildings. That's a new item as well. Rick Malonzo mentioned they need to do a survey of all the roof buildings, go to the roofs of the building to see which ones need to be replaced and the status of them. So those surveys is come to find out whether it's in public utilities or public buildings or in engineering, they always tend to be very expensive. And this one's no exception. We're in our year 3 of a 4-year program for the fire apparatus, replacement of the fire apparatus and its air packs. And there's another $100,000 in there for that. It's a $450,000 program. This will make $350 with the $450. And I don't know if the chief is here. I believe that the packs are coming in, right? Okay. The packs. Any questions on capital projects?
Councilmember Talon?
Yeah, thanks for the chair, David. So we're going to see on capital projects going forward, anything that's being carried currently, and then as soon as it's paid off, it'll drop off this list?
Yeah.
Like a bonding, yeah.
Yeah, but it's currently paid, right.
Right.
Instead of paying interest on it, we're at a lower rate. These are short-term things. Bonds is more than 5 years, and these are usually 5 years or less. And so we're able to lease it at a lower rate, lower cost of issue than bonding.
I notice on the new projects, there's no numbers to the left, but on the old ones, you've got like 413/423, things like that. What do those numbers indicate?
Those are project codes.
Internal project codes?
Internal project codes, and they'll be assigned actually the new system that we assign. We just haven't assigned them at this time, because we're actually assigning, going through the whole chart of accounts, new chart of accounts.
Okay, so next year, like the ladder truck would have its own code
Right.
on the next one, and the new ones would still not have a code? Is that how it's gonna work?
The new ones will, and that's why you see a couple lines here, because it reflects what year they were issued.
Okay.
You know, they were given money for.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
Don't think so.
The last of the list on page 250 is the contingency line item, which is not a lot of change from the adopted budget from last year, but the amended budget, because we used some contingency, is changed. The notable change, though, is the operating transfer out to the ambulance fund has, first year it's increased slightly, but it's going up a little bit. Okay, from 258 to 266. Otherwise, we're keeping our contingency at about 450. That's what we had last year.
Any questions? Councilman
Did
Kern?
did you say animal fund or ambulance fund?
Animal fund.
Okay.
What did you say? Eh,
I thought you said ambulance.
Councilman Cavan?
Madam Chair, seeing there's no other questions, I just kind of like to make a motion that this committee adopt the general government 2 budget as presented, subject to, recommend the adoption of this government 2 section, subject to a public hearing.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion by the committee members? Councilman Nero?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think David did a great job in answering all the questions and in preparing the information. I had sent David emails earlier in the day with some things that I was concerned about, and he responded to those. There's one here that I need to sit down with him and go over a little bit more. But one of the things that's, this is my 3rd year at this, and we always talk about the percent of increase in the budget, whether it's 2% or 3.5% or 4%, whatever the increase is. But trying to understand what the real number is to start with. What is X has always eluded me. And so I asked David about that, and he did, as I said, get back to me with something printed up. So my concern is to move the budget ahead for the next level of discussion. I'd be doing it without fully knowing what X should be. I don't really have a problem understanding the increase in the budget this year, and I don't see that to be a very big thing. But I am concerned about not knowing what the X value is. We have a small raised ranch in Danbury. And 2 years ago, I think the tax jumped up around $400, and then last year it was around $150 or something like that. So in 2 years, we went up about $542, and David knows those numbers far better than I do. And now with this new one, our taxes will go up another $148.13, give or take. So for our house, we will be paying $84 a week, and it's a small raised ranch. And while I don't find a real problem with the budget going up at 3.45%, it's hard for me to equate paying $84 a week for our house. And I'm hoping that in the next week or 2 weeks, I'll be sitting down with David, and he can talk to me a little bit better, and help me understand a little bit better about the need for the positions that we do have, because that's really what's holding me back right now. And I'm hoping that after that, I will be able to understand how I want to vote on the budget when it finally comes up. But at this point, I'm not going to be in favor of moving it at this point, because I feel that there's still more information that I would like to have before I can do that. And David has offered to help me get that, and I'm going to take him up on it. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Any other comments from the committee? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
3 in favor, 1 opposed.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
Passes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.